And again here, people, I'm not going to claim to have complete understanding by any means of what it's laying out here. I'm just going to try to give you my 2 cents worth, what I take away from it. And right about this point, it's getting really thick. So we're talking about, because first of all, it made this statement. And first of all, let's look through this whole forward real quick. The whole forward is talking, from this point on, basically the whole thing is talking about nothing but God and the nature of God, or more particularly the terminology it uses pertaining to to God and his nature. And a whole system of terminology they'll use to describe that. So, they made the statement that deity functioned on personal, pre-personal, and super-personal levels, but then they're saying total deity is functional on 7 levels, being static, potential, associative, creative, evolutional, supreme, and finally ultimate. And the ultimate level, it describes as, okay, get ready, hold on to your hats, self-projected and time-space transcending deity. Deity omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent. Deity functioning on the second level. Now, hold on. Okay, so wait. Just stop right there. Omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent. Now, from those of you coming from some staunch Protestant backgrounds, like I did, those words should really ring a bell. This is describing some of the basic characteristics of God. Omniscient, all-knowing, omnipresent, everywhere at once, omnipotent, all-powerful. And one thing, if anything, I'd like you to take away from this is how it completely bears up our conceptions of God that we had before. And so you really get the sense when reading this that it's giving you a more refined picture of the same thing. It's not supplanting God with some other entity, tearing him down and putting up Buddha in his place or something, or whatever kind of straw person argument a fundamentalist teacher might try to make. Instead, you really get this strong sense of yes, the Christianity and the Bible were the best things going. And here we go. A new revelation not designed to replace that, but to expand our viewpoint of something that is so much richer and more complex. And there is so much more that we are capable of learning about it even at this stage. It's very refreshing, actually. That's what I take away from it. Anyway, so it goes on to say, deity functioning on the second level of unifying divinity expression, and the second level I think they're talking here is the potential, which is self-willed and self-purpose of deity. So they're saying deity functioning on that level of divinity expression as effective over-controllers and absolute upholders of the master universe, describing this ultimate level of deity, as compared with the ministry of deities to the grand universe. This absolute, a term we'll come back to, this absolute function in the master universe is tantamount to universal over-control. So they're saying effectively this is universal over-control and super sustenance, sometimes called the ultimacy of deity, which is a type of term you'll run into later, supreme versus ultimate. Okay, so it goes on to describe 3 levels of reality. The finite level of reality is characterized by creature life and time-space limitations. Finite realities may not have endings, but they always have beginnings. They are created. And this should be, this is us. This is might as well be a straight up Protestant description of our existence. The deity level of supremacy may be conceived as a function in relation to finite existences, which is kind of an interesting, although fairly abstract statement. The absonite, it was describing these three levels of reality: finite, absonite, and absolute. So here we go. The absonite level of reality is characterized by things and beings without beginnings or endings, and by the transcendence of time and space. So I guess when you hear that term absonite, that's the first thing that should come to mind. Something that did not have a beginning and does not have an end, as opposed to us who have a beginning but no end. Absoniters are not created, they are eventuated. Again, apparently trying to communicate to our small minds some sense of some type of beginning that could occur even given an eternal past. In the same breath, it says they are eventuated. They simply are. The deity level of ultimacy connotes a function in relation to absonite realities. So here we go. The deity level of supremacy may be conceived of as a function in relation to finite existence. The deity level of ultimacy connotes a function in relation to absonite realities. No matter in what part of the master universe, whenever time and space are transcended, such an absonite phenomenon is an act of the ultimacy of deity. Again, describing this seventh level on which deity functions. And so these levels of reality, finite, absonite, and absolute. Here's the third one. The absolute level is beginningless, endless, timeless, and spaceless. For example, on paradise, time and space are non-existent. The time-space status of paradise is absolute. This level is Trinity attained existentially by the paradise deities. But this third level, the absolute level, of unifying deity expression is not fully unified experientially. Whenever, wherever, and however the absolute level of deity functions, paradise absolute values and meanings are manifest. So again, this absolute level of reality, connoting paradise absolute values and meanings. It goes on to say, deity may be existential, as in the eternal Son, S-O-N, experiential, as in the Supreme Being, associative, as in God the Sevenfold, and undivided, as in the Paradise Trinity, which shouldn't be an oxymoron to a fundamentalist Christian, because this whole concept of the Trinity is that it is the three in one. So it should connote something undivided. Deity is the source of all that which is divine. Deity is characteristically and invariably divine, but all that which is divine is not necessarily deity, though it will be coordinated with deity and will tend towards some phase of unity with deity, spiritual, mindal, or personal. And hopefully that concept will clear up a lot of things that come down the road when it starts to seem like God is spread out among countless thousands of different beings on different levels. And you're like, what? Is this like the pantheon to end all pantheons, like Martin Gardner claims in his critique of the Urantia book? And what they're trying to say is that we have some subsets here. You've got to understand that everything that is deity is divine, but not everything that is divine is deity. So I guess what I take away from that is you can have many creatures which represent God. That you can't really point to them and say they are God. You're not supposed to worship them as God. But they can still be divine. And in whatever capacity they do, they can perfectly embody some aspect of God or represent it. And I guess what comes to mind to me is this divine counselor, this entity that's writing this, supposedly the highest level of divinity that is still functions on a level that we can communicate with. You know, that can still communicate with people on the bottom level like us on a one-to-one, you know, face-to-face kind of basis. So someone who would not be deity, not to be worshipped, but still divine, still representing God in some sense or an aspect of God. So it goes on to say, this first section, divinity is the characteristic, unifying, and coordinating quality of deity. I said that earlier. Divinity is creature comprehensible as truth, beauty, and goodness, correlated in personality as love, mercy, and ministry, disclosed on impersonal levels as justice, power, and sovereignty. Divinity may be perfect, complete, as on existential and creator levels of paradise perfection. Divinity may be imperfect, as on experiential and creature levels of time-space evolution, or it may be relative, neither perfect nor imperfect, as on certain Havona levels of existential experiential relationships. So I guess, for instance, relationships of some paradise beings to each other. So in that definition, we could be considered divine. And you know, that's a key unity or new thought teaching, that we are divine, thou art God, that kind of thing. Which, of course, I always immediately take to reflect the presence of God within us as a higher self. But in any case, we could be considered divine. When we attempt to conceive of perfection in all phases and forms of relativity, we encounter 7 conceivable types of perfection. 1. Absolute perfection in all aspects. 2. Absolute perfection in some phases and relative perfection in all other aspects. And it goes on through all the possibilities till you get to 7, which is absolute perfection in no attribute and imperfection in all. And so you get this strong sense of degrees of perfection, how they lay out how you can have in essence 7 different combinations of types of combinations of partial, you know, everything from absolute perfection in all respects to none, you know, being perfect in no respect, and so that gives you, number one, an indication of how you can have beings that are finite in some sense but still perfect to whatever degree they exist or whatever their station is. And also how we can feasibly progress from a state of complete imperfection gradually to be more and more perfect, without saying that we are as complete and perfect as God Himself, or in an all-encompassing sense. So that ends this part 1 of the foreword, and I fit it all into one video. I can't believe it. So in the next one, we'll talk about part 2, which is God. You just thought we were talking about God. We were talking about deity and divinity. Now we're going to talk more specifically about God.